Sorry about that. Had the microphone off. How we doing tonight? What's up, everyone? It's Thomas with Real Broker coming at you live every Wednesday at 8 p.m. going over the market stats, the news you know about, everything about buying, selling, or investing here in northeastern Florida. And we're also doing a Q&A. So if you have any questions, any of the news stories we cover, any local markets that you want me to look into, leave them in the comments below. I'll try to answer it live, and if I don't, I'll come back and answer the comment the best that I can. So, as we always do, we will start with the market stats. And really interesting, I feel like I always ask a lot of questions when I go out and talk to these new construction reps. And there was a while there where I was going out there and a lot of them are my friends and they're like, man, it's been slow. It's been really, really slow. And it past I don't know, probably a month, maybe 2 months, the conversations have been changing, which is weird for this time of year. This time of year is normally pretty slow, and we all are aware of that just based on the seasonality of our market. But it seems like that it has picked up a little bit for some odd reason. It doesn't have to do with Trump and 50-year mortgages. It doesn't have to do with mortgage rates going up, I don't think, because they have since the Fed made a decision. So really interested. Maybe it's just based on all the news that we see, oh, the Fed lowers the rate. That opens the door to the conversation that most people are like, oh, they're lowering mortgage rates. But if you guys are watching the show, we'll talk about it 100 times where it's the Fed lowers the rate doesn't necessarily mean mortgages. So either way, let's go ahead and get started with the news. The stats that we care about here. This is our median sale price here for all of northeastern Florida. Covers a whole bunch of counties: Baker, Bradford, Clay, Duval, Flagler, Nassau, Putnam, and St. John's. Overall, once again, since 2022. Things have really flattened out here. Hasn't gone up a tremendous amount, hasn't gone down a tremendous amount. But let's take a look at our local area here in St. Johns County. I always like to do kind of a high level and then take a look at St. Johns County here. It looks like we are down as well, but once again, we're still hovering around this 500,000 mark, which we have been for the past couple years, and it's actually up from last month, which I think that's typical. As we head up to November, December, we do get a little bit of a snowbird pop, so we do see more activity at the end of the year. Just seems that it's a little bit earlier than normal this year. So every single episode we do the market stats, then we do the news that you need to know about. So we're going to hop right into that right after these market stats. And I always try to national level to a Florida level to a local level. Sometimes it doesn't always work out like that, but that's just kind of how the layout of the show is. So let's go ahead and check this out. And just as we were talking about, mortgage rates actually have gone up in the past month or so. Right before the Fed decided that they wanted to lower the federal funds rate, mortgage rates started to go down. The market was kind of predicting that they were going to do a 50 basis point drop. They only did a 25 basis point drop. And because of that, we think we see a reaction of mortgage rates going back up. Who really knows? There's 1,000 different factors that go into this, but mortgage demand, either way, hits highest levels since September despite rising interest rates. And that is kind of also to reflect, I honestly think this is people talking about the market more and talking about interest rates more because of just the Fed being front and center in the media and having to talk about the federal funds rate and what they're going to do in the economy and all that kind of stuff. So more people have eyes on this than ever before. So that's where I think a lot of that activity is coming, especially with this, it's unseasonal. It's not really part of what happens this time of year, because normally after summer is when we have the peak of activity, and then it tapers down towards November, December, then we get a little pop. So either way, maybe we're just experiencing the pop a little bit earlier. People are getting their holiday shopping done, but what are you guys doing? Are you guys looking to relocate during the winter? A lot of people move during the winter because also they don't want to deal with another season of snow and cold. We have a lot of people like that, hence why we call them snowbirds. So let's run on to the next news story. Let me make sure I don't have any questions. No questions. Fantastic. Leave me if you have any questions, leave them in the comments below. Next news story here. And I made a joke about it, but this is a real thing. Trump floats. Oh my God, these ads. Trump floats 50-year mortgages, but experts warn of major risks. The Trump administration has floated a game-changer, quote-unquote, solution to the lack of housing access, and it has experts scratching their head. So, if you didn't hear, he proposed, and I guess he got together with, I think his name's Bill Pulte, who is, I think, the director of the Federal Housing Administration, I believe, Could be wrong on that. If I am, correct me in the comments below. But they came out with this amazing idea to be able to help with home affordability. Does it help, right? And taking, instead of doing a 30-year mortgage, stretching that out to 50 years. Well, technically on a monthly basis, yes, it does help. You're going to probably save somewhere between $200 and $300 a month. But the downside of that is that in terms of interest, you're probably going to be paying double the amount of interest over the 50-year loan than you would for a 30-year loan. So there's a lot of reactions on the internet right now about this. This is my reaction to it, right? It's totally up to the person who's getting a loan. If they want a 50-year loan and it works better for them in their situation, like, okay, great, that's perfect. Probably I would advise, hey, if you can do a 30-year loan, that's going to be better because you're going to pay less interest. But in the same breath, right, we have 15-year mortgages too. So like, why not just do a 15-year mortgage, right? It's only a couple $100 more. So whatever works best for you is going to be the right way to go, right? I don't think you're going to lose out on that. And if in home ownership, yes, it obviously we all want to make money on our homes, right? Whenever, if we do sell, right? No one stays in their home for 50 years. Most people don't stay in their home for 30 years. So the average, I think, is 7 to 9 years is when most people move. That's going to get a little bit bigger as affordability has gotten worse for sure. It'll probably be like 11 to 12 years in the next couple years. But most people move before they pay off their mortgage anyway. So you got to do what works for you. I think that's really the key here, right? If you want a 50-year mortgage, look at the math, have them explain the difference between a 30 and a 50-year and see if it works for you. If it does, go for it. Nothing wrong with that. Is it the best financial move? Probably not, right? But owning a home is much more than a financial move. Like, it's a place you live, raise children, all that kind of stuff, make memories. So on to the next news story here, guys. My internet's extremely slow tonight. Like, I don't know what's going on. All right, my computer may have froze. All right, there we go. Florida 5th in competitive taxes. Florida is 5th amongst 50 states in competitive taxes as judged by the tax analysis. Policymakers, taxpayers, and business leaders can gauge tax systems state to state in many ways, including through the Tax Competitiveness Index. Compares more than 150 variables in 5 major areas: corporate taxes, individual income taxes, sales and excise taxes, property and wealth taxes, and unemployment insurance taxes. All states without an individual income tax tied Alaska, New Hampshire, South Dakota, Tennessee, Texas, and Wyoming. Florida is the eighth in insurance taxes. So this all goes to say, and I think this is important because we've got to talk about property taxes. That's going to be on the ballot apparently for next year for Floridians to vote on of if we should get rid of property taxes or not. Taxes or not, I personally believe like, hey, if I own it, I shouldn't pay taxes on it. But whether you think that is the right thing or not, there is going to be a missing chunk of money, right? Where does that come from? Because income tax, right? Florida doesn't have a state income tax, so that's on the table, right? Which is normally one of the reasons people move here. But then also raising the sales tax, right? So sales tax, depending where you are in the state of Florida, because you have a state and a county tax. I think ours in St. Johns County is 6.5%. 6% is the state tax, 0.5% is St. Johns County, where others places are 7%. So that's probably going to double if we get rid of property taxes. So homeowners win, right? But if you're a consumer and you're a renter, you lose. So there's a lot of things that go into that. But the other thing with that is that next year it's apparently going to be on the ballot. But here in the state of Florida, to make any changes to the Constitution of the state of Florida, you need to have more than 60% of the vote, right? Where most states is 50. That's the majority, right? Not here in Florida. You have to have 60% of the vote for that to pass. Is that likely? Are most voters homeowners? I don't know. That's a hard question to answer, guys. What do you think? Do you think that if it was put on the ballot, the state of Florida would approve, or the citizens of the state of Florida would approve to, hey, let's get rid of property taxes? As of right now, they really haven't put a plan forward of like where that other money is going to come from, right? It's got to come from somewhere. It's not like the property tax system in terms of revenue for the state of Florida is humongous. I think it's like a third of like their revenue. So they're not just going to be like, yeah, we don't need that anymore. I don't know. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments below. I got a couple more news stories. Let's run through them. Now, this was a big deal last year. So St. Augustine makes safety changes to accommodate crowds for Nights of Lights. They had a lot of people, unprecedented attendance come last year. Every single year during Nights of Lights, we have a ton of people come down here, way too much for the city to handle. And last year was no different. But a lot of people cited that, like, hey, if someone just decided to just drive their car through this sea of people, they could easily do that, right? They were just bringing up all these scenarios because we've seen all this kind of crazy stuff happen across the country. And they're like, if we run St. Augustine Night of Lights like we do now, you're leaving yourself open for these type of issues. So they've essentially added barricades to certain places that are pretty much exclusive walking zones only. They've added more like police, not necessarily stations, but positions throughout St. Augustine Night of Lights. And they've added more bathrooms, and just they had to take about $850,000 from the county in order to do a lot of this stuff. But at the same time, the county benefits greatly from St. Augustine Nights of Lights, and so does the city. So overall, I think that's a good thing. They're also going to encourage, shuttling into downtown. A lot of people like to drive through downtown. Not what you're supposed to do, right? Not during Nights of Lights. Maybe at like, 12 a.m. you can do it, but from like 6 to 10, you gotta walk it. It's rough, but either way, we'll see how that pans out. It's the biggest tourist attraction every single year. It's not going to change. I don't think it's going to go anywhere. It's a huge driver of revenue for the local economy here, so it's here to stay. Let's go on to the next news story, guys. Seems like my internet is just not working well. I don't know if you guys can tell that on your end, but everything's just kind of janky over here. I don't know what's going on. Must be a service interruption. This is a big news, though, for Palm Coast. I'm really excited about this. There we go. City agrees to changes to commercial being in Palm Coast residential areas. So if you weren't familiar, the city of Palm Coast kind of acts like a giant whole bunch of regulations that you have to follow if you live in the city of Palm Coast. So, for example, if you have your plumbing company just like this parked in your personal driveway, that is not allowed. And even if you have someone coming over to work on your house, someone could still call the city and still get you in trouble for having someone park in your driveway. Either way, they've made some big adjustments to this so that people that actually work in the trades can park their vehicle in their driveway in the house that they own. So a little bit of a funky rule. Obviously, what they want to do is keep having big commercial trucks and all that kind of stuff parked throughout Palm Coast, because at the end of the day, most of Palm Coast is not in an HOA, but like I said, the city acts kind of like an HOA and regulates all that kind of stuff. So this is a big win for Palm Coast homeowners, and also for the tradesmen that live in Palm Coast, because I know that this is a big problem. So this is a change, and we've talked about this before, and well, at least if you watch my videos, where the change of Palm Coast now is, it seems like a different demographic is moving in, where before that's what people wanted. They wanted to keep everything more or less uniform, high and tight, but as it seems a different population moves into Palm Coast, their culture is changing a little bit. So overall, I think it's a positive thing. I think Palm Coast is beautiful as it is, for sure. I mean, definitely having a lot of the city rules keeps a uniformity across the city. And really, there's no difference between many of the sections in Palm Coast outside of their name and how close they are to the beach, outside of the C section, which is the canal section. So I think it's a big win for the residents of Palm Coast. If you live in Palm Coast, what do you think? You think it's a good thing? Think it's a bad thing? Let me know. All right, and this is a kind of a follow-up on a news story we did before. Jacksonville Surf Park plans 45-acre. Oh my gosh. I can't get rid of these freaking ads. Wave Lagoon with Surf Academy and wellness facilities in eTown. So we talked about this before. It's going to eventually accommodate up to 80 surfers here in the South Jacksonville eTown area. This is eTown right over here. They've got David Weekley back here, Toll Brothers back here, Publix over here. So this is going to be a massive project. But the people that are developing this are from Australia. They're with Aventur. It's going to be a 45-acre surf park, going to open in 2028. And Jacksonville City Council will vote on $4.6 million in incentives. So it looks like everything's going to move forward, but the one thing is that we need to wait on Jacksonville City Council to approve this. Outside of it being a surf location, they're going to have a surf school. They're also going to have like a wellness retreat in here too, with like saunas and cold plunges and all that kind of stuff. They kind of want to circle it. There's going to be retail and restaurants, but they want to curtail it to the city of Jacksonville. So we'll see what ends up going in there, but I think that's awesome. I think the city, you know what, like 4.6 million over the life of this. I mean, this is probably going to bring so much, a different type of tourism to our area. But for that local area, that's huge. Like it is a tourist attraction for sure, but I mean, it's something that like all the locals can enjoy. I think it's awesome. It's very cool. What do you guys think? What do you think about a surf park in your backyard? That would be, from my house, this is 30 minutes, so I'm not a surfer. I'd love to pick it up. But I think I'd give it a shot there. No sharks, anything like that, but I think it's cool. All right, and this is just kind of like a basic news story here, but Fort Matanzas Beach Ramp to close for 6 months starting in November for major resiliency work. So Fort Matanzas is the southernmost access on Anastasia Island for vehicles. Actually, it's an exit really. It's not really an entrance, but they're going to move the exit up to the Spyglass entrance, which I'm guessing. I don't think they have an entrance there at Spyglass. If I remember, they have a walkover. So I'm not sure if they're going to change anything because, yeah, they have the Crescent Beach here. Spyglass is kind of like in the middle here. So we'll see what they do, but they need to redo. Obviously, some storms have caused some damage to that area, so they're going to fix it. It's going to be closing. So next news story here. I don't think we got any comments or anything. You're coming in fine. All right, Rob V. Rob V from New Jersey. Click twice as much to get something over here, but I appreciate you, Rob. Now this one's really interesting. I probably should have covered this one first, but this is a new story that we've been covering, right? We've been talking about Marineland, what the future of Marineland is going to look like, and originally a developer out of Las Vegas bought the property at auction. A local company put a stalking horse bid for like $3.5 million. The local company was the Hudson Companies. They run like Silverleaf. They're also, I think Travis Hudson is a state senator. And then there was a bid by the Vegas company, which is a developer, also a casino developer, I guess, to buy the property at $7.1 million. That got denied by a judge for some, I'm not sure why. And then now a new person who is here local, who is looking to keep Marineland as it is, has now bought the property for $7.1 million, and a judge approved it. So, very interesting to me. Number one, Apex Association, LLC. Okay, sorry, I was wrong. $6.5 million for Oceanarium with added $650K savings from not having to shut down park. So, so it was 7.1 because they're not shutting down the park. They're getting a little bit of a deal. So I'm not exactly sure how this made sense, but I guess it's because it's a bankruptcy judge. They're able to approve or deny it, but that plans to keep the park known as the world's first oceanarium operational. Now, here's my problem with this, right? Seems that there was an auction before, someone else won, another person says, hey, no, you actually didn't win, I'm going to take that away from you, and then someone else just comes in and says, hey, we're going to buy it for X, and they get approved. I'm not sure what was happening in the background there. That seems odd to me that, hey, someone else bought it, whether you like it, a casino to be developed there or whatever their plans were, no one knew. Whether you like it or not, they won the auction, So that seems odd to me that a judge just blocks it and says, no, we're going to block it, and then we're going to let this other person bid, and if they put up the money, then we'll sell it to them. So I don't know. Maybe I don't know enough about it. I'll see if I can learn more about it, but it seems odd to me. The second thing with that is that animals in captivity anymore, right? We all saw that one SeaWorld documentary with that whale Tilikum, and he killed, I guess, 3 people, right? But that's also because he was a whale, an intelligent creature trapped in a tank. Normally when he's swimming miles, he's swimming in a circle, right? So this Marineland wasn't doing well. Obviously, it went bankrupt. Maybe that was management. Maybe that was the people who owned it. That maybe there was so many factors, and maybe the people coming in will run it better. But then there's also the argument of like, okay, well, is it right to keep these animals in there, right? I don't know. Now, personally, that matters to me to a point. But like, what really matters to me is like, why was a sale denied and another sale approved, right? Just because it kept it as Marineland, like a business that already failed? I don't know. What do you guys think? Am I crazy in that? I think that's a little odd, but what do I know, right? I'll look into it. If you guys have any information, let me know in the comments below. Personally, I've been to Marineland. Haven't been there since I was a kid. That exciting. It's not that big. So when I heard that it went out of business and someone else was buying it and they were going to develop it, I got kind of excited because like in reality, like it's not something that it obviously wasn't doing well, right? So I didn't think it was that amazing. I also saw like drone footage of it and it looked pretty gross from what they could show. Maybe they doctored it, not sure. But either way, I thought it would have been a cool idea to have like a beach club or something there. I'm not paid by this other developer out of the casinos or anything, but I thought that would be a cool idea. Another added bonus of like this area for sure. But hey, Marineland's there. No skin off my back. I just think it's a little weird how it all happened. But either way, guys, that's it. I'm going to call it a night. Here every Wednesday at 8 p.m. going to the market stats. News you know about everything about buying, selling, or investing here in northeastern Florida. And we're also doing a Q&A. So if you have any questions about anything, throw them in the comments below. I'll answer it in the comments later. See you next week at 8 p.m., guys. Have a good one.